Hey, this is Keith from 3D RV. This week's video, we have a 12-volt air conditioner. As you can see, this is made by Countrymod. It's a high-efficiency DC air conditioner straight from the battery. So we have to take the old air conditioner off. We have to move a couple solar panels out of the way. We have some DC wire we have to pull. And right now, let's open the box and let's see what we have to work with. And I always recommend you check out your package before you tear things apart, just to make sure it's the right product. Okay, so lifting that to the table, I'm going to just guess before I look in the manual. I think it's about 65 pounds. That's about where my back tells me. Take it easy. But you can see this is the side where the air comes in. There's your condenser fan. Condenser fan's how you reject the heat. This is where the hot gas comes back into the refrigerant coils, known as condenser coils. This fan would blow the heat out. I'm pretty sure that's how this one works. Air in comes from the sides and blows out. I could be wrong. We're going to find out. Pretty nice unit. It is about 36 inches wide, 37 inches. So it's got some width over the stock air conditioner, which I think would end up somewhere in here. So if you don't have the room on the sides, you might want to think of this over. It may not fit, but I think we have just enough room. And let's look and see what we got in the box. There's a nice little remote control. Tie downs and wire ties. Not sure what this foam is. I believe these are the foam pads. I believe there's one foam pad goes under each corner to support it so it doesn't waddle. I think that's what this is for. It's got 3M tape on one side. Pretty sure. Full disclosure, I've not read the manual yet. That's next on the list, actually. And that's our inside plates that ties everything together. And I believe okay, so here's what it looks like. A lot of modern air conditioners will have styrofoam in here for the evaporator side, evaporator coils. And I'm not real sure yet, but when it makes condensation, I believe this is where the water is going to go and drain out to the roof, that little slot right there. So my concerns with this would be probably every year or so, I'm going to have to peek in here and make sure that little valley stays clear so that the water runs off of it. So there's a balancing clip on the fan blade, so they must be really wanting to make sure this thing stays smooth. There's our controller for it, but it's pretty simple. I love the low profile. That's going to help going down the road. So, all right. I think we made sure it wasn't broken. All the parts are here. Now it's time to look at the manual. And we'll start in the morning taking our solar panels off to the side, get them out of the way. Yeah, so I have room to get around all four corners of this. And then we will get the old one off. I got to get a helper here to help get that one off the roof. And then we'll see how this thing lines up. Okay, so there's just a couple other things I want to show you. Comes with a manual. You can scan this with your phone. It's got a good video you can watch. On the say the bed looking straight up. It's got a controller mounts in that, so you can always see the temperature display. You can operate it from the push button switches here. I don't recommend it because you got a nice remote control. But at any rate, it does come with that stuff. It does come with a box of the through bolts that hold it up. These are rather long. I'm going to estimate 6-8 inches or so. I believe this is a diffuser type of bracket that goes inside to separate return air from supply to keep it from mixing, I think. Gotta verify that. This looks like this is the mounting plate. Not sure. Got to look at the manual. This is the bracket, I think, that goes on the roof. As you can see, this is the foam side. So I believe the foam side is going to go up against the roof. And then the air conditioner sits on top of that. But again, I got to go through and read the manual completely.
Okay, so now we're inside and we got to consider what we have to do to take this air conditioner off. But a couple things I want to show first, and that's going to be the noise that this thing makes. This is a 15,000 BTU GE and it works really good, but man, it's noisy. And I wanted to wait for a day to where it was, there's a significant amount of heat load. So let's just show you, we got the lights on and the refrigerator, a couple other things. We're at home. And I just wanted to show you, just remember this number. We have, hopefully that's showing up, 10.7 amps, okay? Kind of bouncing around, looks like 10.7. All right, cool. Let's go back here and let's turn this thing on. And I want you to also see the sound meter. I'm going to shut up for a minute. Okay, you see about 30. All right, so the point is, I'm going to show you, you know what it is when nobody's talking out here. Let's turn this AC unit on. And I'm going to go right up to high and turn the compressor on. And we're running off inverter and batteries. Yep, that compressor just turned on. Excellent. Now let's see how loud it is. Now that, my friends, that's loud. And if I put it on medium, let's see what we get for noise. And now let's do low fan speed. So you see what I mean? If you're sleeping under this thing, you really know it. So I'm gonna go back to high fan. And let's go up to the amp draw on a battery meter. So can you all see that? 146 amps. That's what we're pulling off of our Renogy battery bank. It's an insane amount of power. That is a lot of power for one tiny air conditioner. So remember these numbers. Let's just call it 68 decibels and 149 amps. By the time this thing runs for a couple minutes, it's going to be significantly higher. And this is about the easiest way. My son Garrett and I, what we're going to do is we're going to lift the new air conditioner up here on a mat that's off to the side. Then we're going to hoist the new one to the edge, and we'll get back down and we'll set the old GE unit down on the wood. And knock on wood, we'll see how this goes. Mean Green, Family Dollar, not a sponsor. It sure does work. Okay, so we got our new gasket on. It's all cleaned up.
Now I'm going to get down and hoist this heavy thing up there. It's still about 20 pounds lighter than the GE. There's my crew. There's Vince and Garrett, WWF.
And just like that, I forgot to push the record button. But nothing too exciting. We just lifted it up and we set it on the hole. This is where those little rubber pads go that stick under each corner. This is what stabilizes it in travel.
So you can see there's a pin. And there's another one over here.
So center up these brass nuts. I say brass, but they're goldish color, brass color. You want to center that in the opening. And then there are 4 little bosses, little plastic nubs that stick down. Those are your alignment points. You want to center that the best you can so that it's got a good watertight seal. And then put the long bolts in.
So these bolts, man, I hope they're watching. These could be a ½ inch longer because I barely got a thread started on each end. So I may have to go to the hardware store and get something different. So I get the lock nut started here. You get everything beautiful like you like it. Run those up and put a wrench on it and snug these up. Not sure what this does, but I think it stops the bolt from coming loose when you're traveling down the road. Not sure, but that's what the instructions say. I'll show you something that I'm just not sure. I think I just got to get some of the HVAC tape, but let's go up here and look inside. So my finger's touching the upper piece of ductwork, and then there's a gap between the lower and the upper. You see that gap? So it's almost like the plastic ductwork is not quite long enough if you're using an RV that has an arched ceiling like I do. So I got to go get some of that insulated, aluminum sticky tape and tape up the inside of this, or I'm going to lose air. So,
Okay, after we got done with all that stuff, time to go to the outside. I have a conduit that goes from the roof down to where my solar system is, so it was easy for me to run the wires across the top through some liquid tight and make a connection inside the battery bank area with a 75 amp circuit breaker. So another thing I don't want to fail to mention is if you do a lot of RV park camping where you're always plugged in, maybe this isn't the air conditioner for you. If you do decide to put one of these in, they are big time energy savers, but you may need to update your converter that takes 120 volts down to DC so it has enough energy to run this unit, okay? So that's one thing to be aware of. If you're going to put one in and you do a lot of plugged in parking, just make sure that you have the proper converter so that you have plenty of energy.
well, that's full speed right there. You can tell it's trying to maintain the head pressure. It's definitely noisier outside than inside, which is a great thing. So to be consistent, when I close my big mouth, we'll look at the other air conditioning sound. And I can hear this thing ramping up. Hear it ramping up and down. And it's just now making some really good cold air. I hear the compressor coming up and down. But I want to show you it's running. I think it's much quieter than the other one. Now there's nothing else on but the propane detector and the antenna. 28 amps. Hopefully that's showing up. 372 watts. And I believe it's about 79 degrees inside the camper. So it's got to take that 79 and cool it down. And you can see we're 73 and 74. That's our two sensors up above. So we're going to let this run a little bit. So I went and got my multimeter out, put it in the thermocouple mode, and put the wire right up there. And that's what's putting out 48 degrees Fahrenheit. So the space temperature's dropped. Looks like 3 degrees already. I need to close this bedroom door a little bit. So we got 48 coming out. And turn this light back off. Close this door. We're going to see how long it takes to get it down to 70. But I want to point this out. In the current conditions with that thing running all out with my battery bank that I have, it shows I can run 27 hours, 58 minutes. And from what I can tell, this thing's running on high, but I'm going to check out the remote and my Achilles heel. I always forget to look at the manual. So I'm going to take a quick peek at that and make sure I've got the settings right. But if that's all the amps this thing pulls, we're in good shape. I mean, 28 hours of continuous running. That's not horrible, right? Okay, let's see what we got. So the unit must be caught up because the power consumption, it dropped right down to nothing. Let's see what the room is. Tell you what, I got the door closed and the camper's even cooled off. I mean, it's not an airtight seal around these doors. Oh yeah, it's cool in here. Yeah. That's actually way too cool. So the compressor shut off because the room is 67 degrees. You see that top left hand? 67. Okay, so in summary, let's talk about the things that I don't like. There's only a couple things I didn't like with this unit, and you need to be aware of it if you're putting it on an American-made RV, especially a travel trailer that's modern, that has the arched roof, okay? The air conditioning units are going to be in the middle, and that's where the thickness of the roof is at its greatest, right in the middle. On this particular rig, there are 4 bolts that holds the unit down to the roof, and there's a metal plate that goes on the bottom, and you tighten these bolts up and it squishes down the rubber seal, okay? And that's how they all do. They all have this. But on this particular one, hopefully Countrymod's listening, the bolts that go through to this are about, I would say, 10 millimeters too short, because it is next to impossible to get the nuts started in order to squish the little gasket down by pulling the bolts and nuts tight. So if you follow what I'm saying, the bolts could be just a little bit longer, and that would be very helpful to put it together. That took a lot of time to get that together. The second thing that I don't like that also could be very easily fixed is there are 2 pieces of ductwork that I'll show you behind me. There are 2 pieces of plastic ductwork, an inner and an outer, and they slide into each other. And it's adjustable for the type of roof that you have. In this particular case, the ductwork was not long enough to cover itself. And it was about, I would say, a fair estimate. I could put my fingers in there. So I would say it was about 3/4 of an inch, maybe 18 millimeters, not long enough, 18 millimeters short. So if they were to make those plastic pieces just a little bit longer, I think it would fit from the van people to the schoolie people to the travel trailer people and to the bus people. So only 2 things that I didn't care for that took a little bit extra time, and I think that's an easy fix for a lot of people. So I just want to bring out those 2 things. One last thing that I didn't care about, but you know, the applications, they're all different. My air conditioning unit is all the way at the back of my unit, and my power station's all the way up in the front. That's where my lithium batteries are. So I had to run a longer cable. It's not CountryMod's problem, but I elected to put number 4 gauge wire all the way to the back because it's a pretty good run. About, see, what did I buy? I bought 35 feet of number 4 wire, and I bought the welding cable type, the fine wire. So I run a little bit larger wire to it for my own purposes. And right now I run my wire across the roof, and I have a solar conduit in a box where it comes down a wall. So I put this in a couple years back, and it makes it easy for me to fish wire in there. I've got a 1-inch piece of conduit, and it was easy for me to run the wire down into the battery bank. I did use my own circuit breakers. This unit came with 150 amp fuses. I don't know why they put such a large fuse in there. Generally, you take your max load, and if the max load is, X, it's X times 1.25. So it's 125%. I think it's 125% of the max load. So I ended up buying a 75 amp circuit breaker and putting on here, and it's getting nowhere near that. The highest I've seen so far, and it's a little cooler, but the highest current I've seen on this unit was 37 amps. So I think, to be fair, just to protect our wiring and the wire ampacity rule, I know that the 125 amp fuses may not ever open if there's a short, but because I put the proper circuit breaker in here, now I stand a chance, right? Wire ampacity and overcurrent protection device. Make sure it's sized right for anything you do, right? So things I love about this unit: it's quiet. It is very efficient. It's really difficult to compare the older, larger unit to this newer unit. It's really difficult to say, that it's a fair comparison, because it's not. The one in the back is 10,000 BTUs. This one up here is 15,000. This one's AC, that one's DC. So you're not really looking at apples to apples, to be fair. But it's going to use a lot less energy to cool the bedroom down than the unit that was there. That is just a fact, because the other unit, when it was on, and I showed that earlier in the video, that's 150 amps when it's running, and this one's running 37. So you kind of figure that out yourself. If we're looking purely at DC consumption, a watt is a watt at the end of the day. 37 amps is a heck of a lot less than 150. Another huge thing, when this thing is in the eco mode, I've seen like 45 decibels. When it's in the eco mode, it gets really quiet, and it's going to maintain the temperature with the fans barely moving. So I think that is a huge benefit too. And the only way we're going to know that is we got to get out there and test it on a hot day. So that's coming up. That's tomorrow. So hopefully I covered everything in here. We talked about the noise level. On high, it's pretty close to the same as the old one, the noise that it makes. In the eco mode, it's significantly quieter by, what was that? I think about 15 to 18 decibels quieter when it's in the eco mode. So that's a huge benefit for sleeping too. And we do like a little bit of noise, like a fan in the background. So, it uses less energy. It's lighter than the factory unit, so that's a plus. It's straight DC, so I don't have to take power from a 12-volt battery bank, run it through an inverter. It goes straight from the battery to the unit. So that is an efficiency gain right there. So all in all, I think it's a success putting this on, and I can't wait to see how it does out in the distance. And hopefully they make a ducted version of this. I would definitely like to see how that works. Our unit has, 4 ducts up here. Do you really need it? I don't think you do. The way this unit moves the air, it moves the air very efficiently. It moves the air well. The little flaps go up and down like a mini split unit you'd see in a little data closet or something. It works really good. So we're going to put the links in the description so you can get to this unit. It's on Amazon. I'm also going to leave a review there for people. And we have a detailed how we hooked it all up. And hopefully, if you have any questions, please drop them in the comment. If you have one, give me a comment. Let me know, how did it work out for you? This is new to us, brand new. It's installed the day before Labor Day. Or 3 days before Labor Day. So we got to get out to the campground tomorrow, and we're going to see how this thing runs in the sun, right in the middle of the sand. So thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next week.